Yo guys, how y'all doing? Hope you guys are doing good. We're back with another Apex Legends video, and in today's video we're going to be discussing every weapon in Apex except for the golden drop weapons and basically ranking them tier by tier and discussing which weapons are the best weapons in the game and which weapons are completely trash, and everything in the middle. So if you guys do enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and if this did help you, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get into this video. Alright, so for this video I did make a tier list to basically organize my thoughts so I can go step by step, and I'm basically ranking this tier list in 6 tiers, starting from trash, usable but you want to switch off ASAP, decent but there's much better, solid weapons with a few drawbacks, pretty dang good, and broken. Now without further ado, let's start at the bottom of the tier list, trash. Now this won't need much explanation. I'll just start off by saying it's the Momzik and P20. We all know both of these guns are just complete garbage. I mean, the Momzik literally has 3 shots in it that at most do 50 damage to the body, and the P20 also does extremely low damage, although I can't remember the exact number. If I had to say which is better, it's most likely the Momzik. The Momzik you can kill someone with if they have absolutely no shield, and if you have hammer point, that will help, but let's be honest, by the time you find a Momzik, you're not going to be looking for a hammer point, you're looking to switch off to another weapon. And the same thing goes for the P20. They're both very bad weapons, so let's just get to the next tier. Alright, so the next tier is usable but you want to switch off ASAP. This is pretty self-explanatory. I would call this the D tier of the tier list. The last tier was F tier, just the worst. But here I have the charge rifle and the Spitfire. So I want to start with the charge rifle. I've had people tell me that this is a decent weapon and that it's usable if you know how to use it, essentially. But the way I see it, every other sniper outclasses this. This sniper is not usable. This sniper doesn't have any qualities that would make you want to use the weapon. And honestly, it's just not a good weapon. It doesn't have good damage. There's no real point to the charge up. If anything, the charge up helps people get out of the way of the sniper shot, and I feel like that's why the charge rifle isn't as good. Like, you don't need the extra 10 damage you get with the charge leading up to the final shot. If anything, that is ruining your shot and making it so that the person's gonna move out of the way. So I feel like every other sniper just outclasses the charge rifle. And next here we have the Spitfire. I've also had people tell me that this is a pretty decent weapon. This is usable. And they actually added a gold variant to this weapon coming with Season 5. Let me tell you, gold weapon or not, this weapon sucks. Like, the Spitfire doesn't have any real good qualities except for its mag size. And I'm gonna be honest, you don't need a 100 mag size in order to take care of a squad. Like, you don't need this. And especially with this Spitfire's relatively weak stats, I'd say what drags it down the most is its fire rate. Its fire rate's pretty dang terrible, which makes other LMGs like the L-Star and the Devotion way better than it, because the Devotion, obviously, for obvious reasons, I mean, the fire rate on that thing is insane. And the L-Star, well, you can actually outgun people with the L-Star because the weapon has some fire rate to it. It has some DPS. The Spitfire has a low DPS, although its damage is considerably average. It's just a very slow killing weapon. As well as if you consider the strafe ability of it, LMGs have I believe the worst strafe speed in the game. So when moving to side, you can't do much with it. So if you're playing legends like Wraith or Watson and you're trying to abuse the fact that you have a small hitbox by strafing, or if you're strafing with really any character, you're not going to be able to really do that because of the very slow strafe speed, and by itself the gun does not kill very quick. So in my opinion, the Spitfire is just very lackluster. There's a lot of other heavy ammo weapons that you can use, and in addition, there's other weapons of the same class that outclass it. And that's it for the usable but you want to switch off ASAP tier, or I guess I'll just call it D tier. And let's move on to C tier. Now we have C tier, where I call it decent, but there's much better. Now, I'm saying that you can definitely use these weapons throughout a game, and I feel like these weapons will do some work for you. But in my opinion, there really isn't a reason to hold on to any of these weapons. If you're really trying to win the game, you're definitely going to want to pick up something else. But that's just my opinion, so let's just get on with these weapons. Alright, so first, the Alternator. Now, I feel like there's some confliction to this because the Alternator recently got a buff, And I feel like the buff did help the alternator, the extra mag size. I feel like it really needed the extra mag size, right? That was something I struggled with oftentimes when I was using the gun. I'd figure out I would spray a mag on a person, and oftentimes I would just run out before they die, and then I'm screwed because I just put a whole mag into the person, but I didn't actually put a whole mag. I had like half a mag or something. So when I shot them, they didn't kill them, and then I was screwed, right? So the extra mag size definitely helps, but I don't think it boosts it up to the next tier, simply because there is other weapons, other light weapons, and other weapons of the same class that outclass it. The alternator has a relatively low fire rate and a decent amount of damage, kind of similar to the Spitfire, but the thing that does help it the most is that you have a decent strafe speed with it. You actually have the best strafe speed with it, considering that it is an SMG. SMGs and pistols have the best strafe speed in the game, so the fact that you have a good amount of strafe speed with it, and the gun is relatively accurate in terms of recoil and things like that, I feel like it belongs in this tier. The next weapon I have here is the RE45. Now, I feel like I wouldn't rank one over the other. I feel like the RE45 and the alternator are both very comparable. They have their own ups and downs, and I don't want to rank one over the other, so you guys can discuss that in the comments if you feel like one's better than the other. But the RE45, what's good about the RE45? Now, it's the fire rate on this gun is great, right? And the recent buff they had, it was a small buff. I believe it was only 1 more damage, but I feel like this definitely makes this gun a little more solid, and it does have some decent killing power, but it's not as good as other weapons of the same class. It gets outclassed, right? But the RE45, I believe, can hold its own, but yeah, there's better. Next is the longbow. Now, the longbow recently got the skull piercer, and the skull piercer actually helps it out, and I've seen a lot more people running the longbow because they added the skull piercers in, and I believe this actually helps the gun. I believe the gun before was actually pretty decent. It's just it had a very low pick rate. I didn't see it a lot when people were playing the game because, well, first off, not a lot of people use snipers, but the longbow just wasn't the most viable out of all the snipers, so there wasn't much reason to pick it up. But I feel like with the skull piercer, its damage to the head, I think it's actually like 140 or something. I think it was something pretty high, and it's actually, I think, around the same as the sentinel, which is a huge buff, and I feel like makes it way better. I feel like you can definitely kill people really quick with the longbow, and it's definitely a highly underrated sniper weapon, definitely underrated weapon in general, and I feel like it's good, but it definitely gets outclassed by other weapons. And one of these weapons I feel like is the G7, which is going to be ranked higher in the tiers. I don't want to mention that yet, but the G7 is essentially like a better version of the longbow, and that's why the longbow lands in decent tier. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that, and on to the next weapon. Alright, so the next weapon is the triple take. The triple take, I mean, I feel like it's in the same situation, sort of a similar situation as the longbow. It's decent. It didn't receive any touching during season 5. It's kind of stayed the same over time, and the triple take has been solid. You know, it's a solid sniper that you can use, and certainly better than the charge rifle in my opinion, but I feel like there's not much to say about it. It's just decent. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. You can add the precision choke to help do more damage, but oftentimes if you have to wait to charge it, you may lose the opportunity to get a snipe on someone. And I feel like the longbow has definitely the best hip fire for all the snipers, I believe, because of its tight spread. It's definitely usable in closer ranges, but that's about it at C tier. And that's it for the snipers in C tier, and let's get on with the final weapon, which is the L-Star. Now, the L-Star being the second LMG out of any of the gold weapons. If we're not talking gold weapons in this tier list, this is the only other LMG, and the L-Star is relatively decent. It hasn't gotten any touching, but as we know, it is the LMG, so the strafe speed is the lowest in the game, and that's definitely a reason why you definitely should probably steer clear of the L-Star. But regardless of that, the L-Star has some decent stopping power, some decent damage, and a relatively good fire rate, which I put it over the Spitfire for, but there is definitely better. So that's all I have to say about that, and that's done with C tier, or as I call it, decent, but there's much better. And on to B tier. B tier is what I call solid weapons with a few drawbacks. Now let's get into our first weapon, which is the EVA 8. Now, I know a lot of people who may put this up to A tier. I know people who think that the EVA 8 is pretty dang good. Especially some people who think if they have the hop up, which is double tap, you could put it up there. And I'm gonna say this: I have switched perspectives, and I'm closer to the side on where the EVA 8 is better than the Mastiff. And the reason I want to say this is because the damage for a shotgun is way more consistent. I want to say shotguns right now in Apex are in a weird spot because the 3 shotguns that aren't gold weapons, the EVA 8, the Mastiff, and the Mamba Zeke, while the EVA 8 does have a gold variant, I mean, we're talking about the normal EVA 8 here, they all are sort of not meta. The PK was one of the best weapons in the game when it was not a care package drop, and I feel like a lot of people were using it in their loadouts. But I feel like now that the PK is gone and we have the Mastiff in normal drops, it's kind of been a weird shift here because the EVA 8 is pretty solid, but there is some drawbacks as the EVA 8 doesn't do a whole lot of damage compared to a PK, doesn't have the stopping power, but the EVA 8 also has a higher mag size, it also has the hop up, and overall it's pretty solid. But in my opinion, there are some loadouts that'll just be better off if you just don't run a shotgun at all, but the EVA 8 is definitely a solid pick. Now the next weapon we got here is the Mastiff. As I mentioned before, since you already could have thought before, since I said that I'm leaning towards the EVA 8 being better than the Mastiff, I'm not going to put the Mastiff in a higher tier. Now, for those of you who watched the videos, I actually did post a video basically saying the best loadouts, the best loadout in the game, which is the R99 Mastiff. And this was as I was getting into the Mastiff, you know, it was clickbaity, I'll give you that. It was pretty clickbaity. And I want to go over the real weakness of the Mastiff because we all know the Mastiff can be strong, right? It can hit for good damage. It can hit for more damage than the EVA 8, which is why maybe many other people may pick the Mastiff over the EVA 8. But the point where the Mastiff really falls is its consistency. This is by far probably the least consistent shotgun in the game. And that's what the Mamba Zeke being around. Now that's strange, right? I'm saying that this is the most inconsistent shotgun when the Mamba Zeke exists. And I just want to tell you, and I'm speaking for many other people here, where there have been so many situations where we have gotten an enemy extremely low, got after them, and tried to shoot a shotgun after them and hit for 20 damage, 15 damage consecutively, and have not been able to hit a solid hit in order to finish the kill. And then you die because of it, right? Because you chased after the person and got too greedy, and then you're dead. Now, if it was a PK in that situation, you probably would have hit for a solid 50. The person would have been dead. But the Mastiff can be so inconsistent in some situations that sometimes you'll just hit for a 20, sometimes a 30, maybe a 10. You know, the Mastiff just sometimes doesn't work, but when it works extremely well. So if you want a comparison for shotguns, EVA 8's more consistent, the Mastiff hits harder. So it's which you would rather prefer. Now that we're done with that, we're moving on to ARs, which we have 3 ARs in this tier: the Flatline, the Hemlock, and the R301. I'll try to take these out all 3 at once. Alright, so starting with the Flatline. Flatline is a good weapon. I'd say its biggest drawback is probably its recoil. Its recoil can be really annoying at times, considering it drags left to right. It can be hard to manage, but once you get attachments on it, it can be a pretty solid weapon. It does a good amount of damage, a good decent fire rate. There's not really much bad to say about it, other than its strafe speed isn't the max strafe speed it can be, which can be a drawback for some characters like Wraith or Watson, which have low profile. Sometimes they kind of need the strafe speed so that they can avoid shots better. But if you're really running somebody like a Gibby or a Caustic, which have the fortified buff, they don't need strafing as much. So a AR is probably a better pick, and a Flatline is very solid. Now, another thing that's been brought to my attention is the Hemlock. The Hemlock is a very solid weapon, and I feel like it's very underrated. And I've been seeing a lot of clips of it. I've been seeing content with it, and it really isn't too bad. I feel like people underrate it because it's a burst weapon, and it's a burst AR. You wouldn't think it'd be on the same level as a Flatline, which is shooting way faster than it, right? Well, I'll say one thing. The Hemlock single tap is fantastic. You could be extremely accurate with that, but I don't think that affects the weapon as much. The Hemlock is extremely solid at medium to close range. I feel like long range it can fall off, but if you want to use a single tap, it can be decent at that range. But it also goes with the same things with the flatline. You know, it doesn't have the strafe speed, and there is harder killing power than it, but it is an extremely solid weapon. And then the last AR, which is my personal favorite, the R301. Now the R301 is a great weapon, I'll say that. I can't say it's great. I may be a bit biased because I didn't rank it in what it would be called the great tier, the A tier or the S tier. I didn't put it there because the weapon does have obvious drawbacks, but it is very solid because it has practically no recoil. It's extremely easy to control. Even with no attachments, it has a great iron sights too, but I don't think that affects the weapon as much. If we're talking about purely the weapon has a great killing power. It has a solid fire rate, solid damage, and extremely low recoil, which is why I think it's better than the other two ARs. And like I said, I think its only real drawback is its strafe speed. And I seem to forgot one weapon. Now, I think I did rate this higher. I was going to rate this in the A tier, but I looked over it again and I was like, nah, it's probably not. I'm going to bring it down to B tier, and that is the G7 Scout. Now, the G7 Scout is... Nah, you know what? Frick it. We're moving on to A tier. We're putting it in A tier. I may be biased. Frick it. A tier. I'm calling A tier the pretty dang good because these weapons are extremely good. These are the meta weapons, the weapons you want to be using throughout your games. And you can also use the weapons in the tier below, but I feel like these weapons have the extreme advantage and will give you an edge in battle. And starting off, we're going to start with the G7. Now, I was really considering putting this down, but I feel like the G7 is such a nice weapon. It's classified as an AR in the game, even though it's more of a DMR. It's on the same level as like a longbow or something like that. But like I said earlier, this is just a better longbow. This weapon is extremely good at medium to long ranges. You can kill people extremely quick with this weapon and take advantage. And you don't have to deal with the drawbacks of recoil or any of that sort. It's really just a solid damaging weapon that you can melt gibbies and caustics with ease. It's an extremely accurate weapon, and I'd say its main drawback is really its iron sights and of course its strafe speed, but you don't need a good strafe with the G7 considering you're going to be at medium to long range with this weapon. So I feel like this weapon is extremely solid at its range and doesn't have a super big drawback except for its iron sights. Now the next weapon we're going to be discussing the weapon group of SMGs. Now there's two SMGs I put here. You notice there are 3 SMGs in the game if you're not including the RE45, which is practically an SMG, but we're going to call it a pistol for the sake of it sounding cool. So 3 SMGs in the game. The alternator we already put in C tier, but the 2 SMGs are the Prowler and the R99. Now y'all know these weapons are sick. These weapons are used by all your TTVs, all your sweats, all your tryhards. They're used by me because I am a sweat, I am a tryhard, and I guess technically a TTV, but whatever. These weapons are solid. These not even solid. These weapons are pretty dang good. The P90 absolutely melts. Whether you have the hop up to make it full auto fire, or even 3 burst. Like honestly, it's good either way. And I've had some people make arguments. I've seen people make arguments that the 3 burst is better than the auto fire. And while I'm not sure about that, I think you're pretty good with this weapon no matter what. Like you don't even really need attachments for this weapon. Like you could go ham with just the base gun. And I think that's what makes the Prowler extremely good, extremely powerful, and one of the best weapons in the game. Now the next weapon. Now if y'all watch my content on YouTube, if y'all watch my streams, y'all know I use this weapon in practically every game. And I think a lot of other people do too, because this thing is just extremely good. And that is the R99. The R99 is just cracked, alright? I was considering putting it in broken tier, to be completely honest with you. because this gun, I believe, has the highest DPS in the game. It's the highest kill power in the game. It literally shreds people the quickest in this game, and in a game that has a high time to kill, or what would you call it? Well, the fights in this game are longer than other games. Well, how do I say this? Compare Apex Legends to Warzone, right? In Warzone, people die in like literally 2 seconds. Like, you get shot at, you're dead. In Apex, you can get shot at for a little bit, and you'll have time to use your tactical or do something to get away, and then you'll be able to heal and then get back to the fight, right? The weapons don't kill as fast as in other games. But when it comes to the R99, the R99 literally kills the fastest in the game. Literally only second to maybe the Havoc. I'm not completely sure which has the better stats. But these are the two guns that kill extremely stupidly fast. And if I had to say, if there was anything that was really a drawback to the R99, it's its mag size. Now, as y'all know, this could be easily fixed with an extended light mag, right? That's why you always have the sweaty TTV race looking for a light mag for their R99. They need the light mag so that way they can get a full clip on a person and have a guaranteed kill. Because it takes it from a 20 mag to a purple light mag will give you 27 bullets. And that's oftentimes the difference it takes to be able to kill a person and still have some bullets to spare. Now, I'll say that's really the only drawback to this gun. I mean, other than its iron sights, because god damn, those iron sights annoy me. But literally, the day that this video gets posted, I'm gonna be able to get the R99 skin that actually has some decent iron sights. So that way, this gun will literally have zero drawbacks with me. I'm gonna be godlike. Make sure to watch the stream today, guys, when this goes up. Make sure to watch the stream at 5:30 and watch me go off with the R99 skin. You guys won't regret it, but this gun is absolutely broken. Alright, I'm looking at the recorded time. This is leading over 25 minutes. Holy crap, I don't know how I'm going to get this video out. It's literally 12 in the morning. Whatever, guys. Let's get to the next weapon. And we have our sniper in A tier, the Sentinel. The Sentinel is pretty dang cracked. I think it's still the best sniper in this game. And I think some people will make the argument, oh, I think the longbow is maybe the best sniper in the game. I think the triple take can compete. Nah, the Sentinel I think is the best sniper, and this is if we're not considering, of course, the Kraber, which is out of loot drops, because those are not extremely, but more rare weapons, and I want to talk on a more practical scale, the weapons you see every time you drop. And the Sentinel is nasty, I will say that. And it recently got a buff that wasn't announced in the patch notes, where it only takes 2 cells in order to give it disruptor rounds, and I feel like the Sentinel is absolutely good. It does a good amount of base damage with a 70 body and around 140, I believe, for a headshot, which makes it a clean 2-shot kill if you hit 1 headshot. And I believe is extremely solid. It doesn't have drawbacks like the triple take that has, you know, lower damage, or the charge rifle, which has the little bit of charge before it shoots, or the longbow, which has a lower body shot damage. The Sentinel is just a solid damaging sniper. And with the disruptor rounds, you can easily take off a person's body and then shred them down with your R99, your Prowler, your Flatline. It's easily one of the best setup weapons, which allows you to start up a fight and then lead into an easy kill. I feel like this is why the Sentinel is the best sniper in this game, not considering loot drops, and my personal favorite. Now, the last gun we have in A tier, I'm sure y'all been waiting for it. Oh, y'all already know, it's the Wingman. Now, regardless of what you think of this weapon, whether or not you're good with it or not, I know a lot of you guys are potatoes and you can't hit your shots with it. It's okay. But this gun is extremely good. Now, let me tell you why. It's extremely fast strafe speed, right? It has the same strafe speed as SMGs. It's basically a normal strafe speed, right? So this makes it extremely easy for the TTV Wraiths to strafe side to side, dodge those shots, and do an insane amount of damage. Because now that this gun essentially got buffed with I forgot to hop up. Is it Skullbreaker? I think it's Skullbreaker. We're just gonna go with that. Now that it got buffed with the Skullbreaker, it's absolutely nasty. It's already been nasty. It's been one of the top guns in Apex. Since the start of the game, this gun has been really nice. And if you haven't gotten good with it yet, I mean, just practice it. Practice it in the firing range. Practice it using it in a game. Because this gun is extremely good in most scenarios. And I feel like it's just extremely solid. No real drawbacks to the wingman. And that's why I think it goes in the pretty dang good tier, which is A tier. Now, the final tier y'all been waiting for, right? Essentially S tier weapons, or what I like to call broken. We have the Havoc. Now, the Havoc got nerfed, right? It got nerfed in the last update. Doesn't matter. This gun is still broken. Literally, they gave this gun the teeniest bit of recoil. This gun's still broken. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It falls off at a little bit of longer ranges. Now you can't really kill people at long range like you could before. Like, you could literally just laser people from miles away with the Havoc back when it wasn't nerfed. Now you really can't, but that doesn't change the fact that this thing kills near instantly in medium and close range. Like, this thing is a laser beam. Literally, it is a laser beam, but like, it is a laser beam. And I know some people probably don't feel a good way about this. They would probably put it down to A tier. They probably say it was a reasonable nerf, but let's be honest, if you can manage your recoil well enough and control the gun well enough, this gun is absolutely nasty. They need to give this thing some more recoil or something, man. Like, cause this thing beams kids. It's a mini devotion, essentially. It's essentially what it is. It's just a mini devotion, and that's why it goes in the broken S tier of this tier list. Holy, that took 30 minutes to record. I took a whole 30 minutes discussing weapons in Apex. Drop a like. I would appreciate that a lot. I was gonna take a lot of editing, a lot of stuff, and I'm literally getting this done the night of. So all the likes would be greatly appreciated and help out the channel a lot. Also, make sure to subscribe, follow the links below, follow my Twitter, follow my Twitch especially, so you can see me go off with that R99 skin like I mentioned earlier. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. I'm extremely freaking tired, but I hope you guys could enjoy the more laid back video where I just discussed weapon meta and basically what I think is good, what I think isn't as good. And if anyone talks to me or wants to discuss, what do I think about the weapons in Apex, show them this video, because this is essentially my best explanation, and my opinion can change. So feel free to comment down below and tell me where I was wrong, where I was right even, and what could use some more fine tuning. But yeah, I should just stop talking now. Once again, I appreciate y'all, love y'all. I've been posting like crazy, and I plan on grinding even more and just getting these videos out and just trying to grow, trying my hardest. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.